This is the second lecture about presentation skills, and this one deals with the organization and time management in a presentation. The organization of a presentation is very important regardless of whether your presentation is going to be delivered formally, such as at work, or informally for a club, or perhaps a best man speech, which is the speech delivered by your closest friend at your wedding. You should always aim to give a clear, well-structured delivery. That is, you should know exactly what you want to say and the order in which you want to say it. And practice is going to be the key here again, that the more you practice, the more you'll be able to realize that what ideas you want to present in what order. Having thought about and planned a good structure will also help to alleviate any nervousness you may be feeling in the build up to your talk. Again, if you're sure that whatever material you're presenting is appropriate, is relevant, is attention grabbing, you will be less nervous. Clarity of ideas and good organization should help result in a lively, logical, and compelling message delivered in a confident and professional way. So the more clear and concise your ideas are, your presentation is, the more compelling, more impactful your message is going to be, and it is going to also sound very professional. Organizing the presentation material may include, so there are 3 steps to organizing your presentation material. First is the blue sky thinking, which is also called brainstorming the ideas. That what you have to decide, keeping your objectives in mind, all the points you wish to make irrespective of order. First you have to decide that whatever objectives you have for the presentation, you related to that, whatever ideas come into your head, you have to write them down, note them down, and at this point you don't have to worry about organizing them in a logical manner. You just have to write the ideas that come into your, that pop into your mind at the instant. Second is selecting your main points. The talk presentation should be divided into 3 sections: introduction, main content, and conclusion. Your presentation should be clear enough that it can be divided into the 3 sections: the introduction, the beginning, which is going to grab the attention of the audience; the main content, whatever main ideas you're going to present, they are going to be the middle part of it; and conclusion is going to end your presentation. It's going to summarize whatever ideas or message you were trying to convey to the audience. Regarding the organization of ideas, this is a guide. As a guide, three key points are sufficient for a 10 to 15 minute presentation. 6 key points are sufficient for a 30-minute presentation. 8 key points are sufficient for a 45-minute presentation. Knowing this guide will help you organize your presentation better and also help with the time management. So if it's just a small presentation of 10 to 15 minutes, 3 main points, main ideas can be discussed. If it's a 30-minute presentation, 6 ideas can be discussed, and if it's a 45-minute presentation, 8 key points can be discussed, and so on. Arrange the key points in a logical order and expand them with supporting material, discussion, argument, analysis, and appeal. If you're hoping to persuade people, then it is advisable to address potential objections within the presentation so that you present a reasoned, well-balanced view. So now, after you have thought about the ideas, you have made the content, you have thought about the logical order of the ideas, you have to support your material, you have to present arguments, you have to make it sound like a discussion. You're trying to convince the audience, so you need to present logical, solid proof. Third point of organization is deciding whether to illustrate. Like which points you're going to expand upon, which points are you going to argue the most about, or which points you're going to present with the help of some audiovisual aids, with the help of pictures or something like that. Most talks benefits from personal anecdotes, real life situations, and hypothetical examples to bring them to life. If you're talking about some topic that could relate to the life of audience or your own life, you can start with telling something that happened to you. You can start with talking about the experiences that your audience would normally experience in their real life. If the presentation is short and informal, it's probably not necessary to use any visual aids. Use visual illustrations if anything requires expanding, clarifying, or simplifying. Illustrations of any type should be relevant and fully explained. Bear in mind that talk will last longer if visual aids are used. If you want your presentation to be a bit longer, you can use audiovisual aids. And do not use audiovisual aids wherever you want them to be. Instead, decide where they are absolutely necessary, where there needs to be a visual explanation, visual instance, visual example of the ideas, and only expand on those. Only use illustrations for those points. PowerPoint or other presentation software is often used to support a presentation, although care needs to be taken to ensure that this technology aids the presentation and does not detract from the main essence of your talk. Do not use visual aids or PowerPoint just for the sake of it or to show off your technological prowess. There is nothing more distracting than busy and pointless PowerPoint animations in a presentation. So only use PowerPoint and multimedia and audiovisual aids where absolutely necessary. Sometimes people use such things where it's not even required, and that tends to distract the audience rather than ensnare their attention. So you have to make sure that whatever material you're preparing in whatever way, it's absolutely relevant and concise and attention grabbing for the audience. In any presentation, introduction and conclusion are the most important parts. Introduction should give a preview of what you are going to say and should gain the attention of the listeners with the statement of purpose. Make it clear whether you wish to accept questions as they arise during the presentation, thereby breaking your flow and risk being sidetracked, or will you invite questions at the end. So introduction gives the main, it's the start of the presentation. Like we said in the previous lecture, that grabbing the attention of the audience within the first 5 minutes of the presentation is the key. If you're not able to grab their attention, then they will not listen to the rest of your presentation. So make an introduction that will leave a lasting impact, that would make the audience pay attention to whatever you're going to present next. And make it very clear in the beginning whether you're going to take questions as they arise in the minds of the audience, or are you going to take questions at the end of the presentation, which is the better option, because otherwise if the audience starts asking questions in the middle of your presentation, it will break your flow and fluidity of your presentation. The conclusion should repeat the main points, but this time try to use different words and summarize the main point and argument and decisively, so that no one is in any doubt that your presentation is finished. This is also the time to ask audience whether they have any questions. So the conclusion needs to be concise, and it needs to actually be able to summarize whatever you have presented. It should give a summary of your ideas, whatever ideas you presented in the presentation. It should summarize them, it should conclude them, and at this time you can also ask the audience if they have any questions. Time management. Timing is as important as content. Your pitch may be perfect, but get your timing wrong and you instantly become the person who fluffs the punchline of a joke. Start and finish on time. So timing is of the essence in a presentation. You cannot start early, you cannot finish late. If you're given a 15-minute time period to present your ideas, then you have to finish within the 15 minutes, because if you exceed that time limit, people are going to get bored, they're not going to listen to you, they're actually going to be irritated by the fact that you're not following the timeline. Starting late is disrespectful to your audience. They organize their day around your presentation. Finishing late is equally disrespectful and sometimes more disruptive, because people have other plans in their diary. However, the world isn't perfect and last minute unplanned agenda changes do happen. So you should be prepared to adjust at the last minute. For example, if the audience is arriving late and your time period is shortened from 15 to 10, you have to be able to instantly arrange your presentation accordingly, shorten it, or determine in your mind whatever points were the most important, and then you can present only those and skip the unnecessary material. If you're a speaker at an event that starts late, ask the event organizer whether they want you to finish on time by cutting some material. Present all of your material and finish late. Whatever the plan is, let your audience know. This is the important point. Let people know what's going on. If the timing of the agenda is changed, communicate those changes as soon as you can, then stick to them. So you have to make sure that your audience is just as involved in the presentation as you are. So whatever changes of timing have occurred, you need to communicate them to the audience as soon as possible, so they will be in that mind frame, they would be able to get in that mind frame, they would be paying more attention to your presentation instead of to their watches. Many presenters make the mistake of spending too much time on early topics and consequently run out of time later on. Allocate a couple of minutes to capture people's attention at the beginning and a few minutes to deal with questions towards the end. Separate the remainder of your presentation into timed chunks, including your call to action at the end. This way you will know at any given point whether you're on track to finish on time. So practice beforehand is what's going to enable you to manage your time properly. You have to decide if you're presenting a 10-minute presentation and you're giving 3 ideas in that, you have to allocate the proper number of minutes you're going to spend on each idea. For example, you can give 1 minute to introduction, 1 to conclusion, and then 2 to 3 minutes to each of the 3 ideas, and that way you would be in your mind there would be an internal clock of how much time you need to spend on each idea. Here are some tips to track whether you're on time. Have a visible clock in the room so you can keep a check on the time without the audience noticing. Avoid looking at your watch. So don't wear a wristwatch to a presentation. If you keep looking at your watch, people will think that you're more interested in the time than in giving your presentation. Make sure that if you have to follow time, then you have a visible clock in the presentation room instead of looking at your watch again and again. Have trusted audience member give a discreet signal at agreed intervals. If your friends or your colleagues or someone you're familiar with is sitting in the audience, have them agree to beforehand give you signals at proper intervals, at agreed intervals. Have a vibrating timer on your belt or wrist, and you can also use a vibrating timer or vibration in your cell phones to set alarms at regular intervals of your presentation. This would help with the time management. This concludes the topic of presentation skills of ADP's IT second semester.